Senator Franken asked me a rambling question after some 6 hours of testimony that included dramatic new allegations that the United States intelligence community, the U.S. intelligence community, had advised President-elect Trump, quote, that there was a continuing exchange of information during the campaign between Trump's surrogates and intermediaries for the Russian government, close quote. I replied to Senator Franken this way, quote, Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it, close quote. That was the context in which I was asked the question, and in that context, my answer was a fair and correct response to the charge as I understood it.
That Attorney General Jeff Sessions testifying before Congress today, smacking back at Senator Al Franken, whose questions during Sessions' confirmation hearings about contacts with Russians led to his recusal. Sessions saying the question was confusing and it came from a news report that he hadn't seen. He also hinted he took the question in the wrong context, leading to the testimony Sessions later had to correct. And one quick note on the politics of all this. Take a look at these numbers. Today, before the Sessions hearing, the president's numbers have reached a new low. His approval ratings remain at 36%, but his disapproval ratings now at 60%, the highest of his brief presidency. And according to Gallup, that puts the president in very rare territory. It's only the 5th time since Gallup began polling about presidential job approval that any president has been above 60 in voters not approving of the job they're doing, and Trump is by far the fastest one to get there. Truman got there right after the Korean War began. Nixon, of course, after Watergate. George W. Bush's disapproval numbers were above 60 for 3 days in 1992 as the economy slipped into recession. His son W got there after both Iraq and Katrina, and now Trump's disapproval numbers are above 60, less than 150 days into his administration, and less than having to deal with an economic fallout or less than dealing with a war or whatever else. This is all self-inflicted. All right, for more, let's bring back our panel. Dominic Carter joins us, political journalist and author, of course, and Andrew, who you saw before the break. Okay, I don't know that the ball really got moved one way or the other too much here, Dominic, today. It seemed, you know, if you were thinking that this was all some, kabuki theater where people were looking for a reason to go get Trump, they'd say, see, Sessions let him have it today because he was sick of all these questions trying to besmirch his good name. On the flip side, you said, wait a minute. You guys don't get privilege. Answer the freaking questions. Tell me what happened in the room. Tell me what you knew, what you didn't know. Tell me what you said. Give me the real reason why all this is going down. If you just heard the testimony today and suspended any political axe to grind, you'd say to yourself, no human being would have done that if the same circumstances. You would have asked why. You would have asked who. You would have asked when. None of that ever happened in the Sessions world. I don't know it changed too many minds today, but it sure as heck was frustrating.
Frustrating for the American people. The Attorney General of the United States, to a large degree, was playing to an audience of one. His boss, who happened to be watching en route to a location from Air Force One. And so, Richard, to me, this is right up there along the lines of Bill Clinton and the definition of is, okay?
Yeah.
What's the definition of is, okay? You have a lawyer. You have the country's top law enforcement official. And he literally tries to invoke privilege in a backdoor way, which only the president can do, as you just pointed out. And he says, well, there might have been another meeting with the Russian guy, but I don't recall it. Count the times he said, I don't recall, don't remember, or lashed out. He's clearly hiding something.
And back to that privilege stuff, and I know, look, I'm not an attorney, and attorneys are going to debate this back and forth, but the problem is we're now right on the verge of this becoming an alarming trend. Last week, we had Dan Coates, the Director of National Intelligence. We had Mike Rogers, whose title escapes me right now because I've been dealing with Sessions all day, and a few other,
yep.
and a few other people testifying before the same committee saying, Yeah, I can't answer that question because I had a conversation with the president about it. No, it's not classified, and no, we haven't exerted executive privilege. Sessions today was saying, I'm not answering that because at some point down the road, the White House might want to go back and exert privilege on some of those questions. They're trying to cherry pick what questions they can ask with no legal basis to do it. And we're dealing with an investigation about potential obstruction of justice. We need to know what the president said, and we need to know what the president said to his closest advisors. There is no legal out for them to hide behind this, and that they're hiding behind it now in 2 consecutive sessions, one involving sessions. If this doesn't get stopped now, every single member of the administration who goes before Congress is going to do the same thing, and we're never going to find out what happened.
And again, this isn't rooting for Democrats, Republicans, or other. You don't get to say none of your business, which is basically, in a polite way, what Sessions said today and those earlier Coates and Rogers said as well. President talks to you. President gets to figure it out. But you have to say what happened in the room. Mm-hmm. That's the role of Congress. You know, the role of Congress and their responsibility constitutionally is that they're supposed to be the ones asking the questions. So, I don't know. To me, it also became crystal clear. This is going to come down to Mueller, okay? Now, Congress can do their thing.
We hope it comes down to Mueller.
You know, Mueller's going to have seemingly, we're going to talk about that next segment, assuming there's not lunacy involved here and they try and fire yet another guy who's looking into this. You would think he's got the men material and the resources, experience, et cetera, to get to the bottom of this. And, you know, Sessions chose to come today. He didn't have to come today. It could have been a closed session, was an open session, and all the rest. A lot of people don't want to talk, are going to have to talk to him. And people are going to get squeezed. So if there's any there, I believe, like they said, especially in the electronic age, the stuff's going to get out.
Well, we can only hope, but if the President of the United States has your back, you might not end up being squeezed. Just look at what's going on today in Washington. This is the Attorney General. This is not a partisan. And the reason why he got away with what he did, which some will argue is despicable, the reason why he got away with it is because his party is in control.
You know, but there was one thing that I think Andrew mentioned it in his windup, that it's going to get lost in some folks, because everyone's like, well, who'd you meet with? Who'd you meet with the Russians? What happened in that room? Comey. But here we are in the middle of June. Nobody debates the Russians not only did it, they went to, what was it, Andrew, 39 states that we know of, or something approaching that, even on the state level.
The voting systems in 39 states.
We have clear testimony that this wasn't some one-off. They're going to keep doing it to America. And to your point, the top law enforcement official in America has yet to be briefed on the Russia hacking. That's
and don't forget the president never asked the FBI director about it either.
Exactly. Nobody's asked a question. And then you wonder why. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, Dominic touched on it. There are rumors going around here that there could be another person who could get pink slipped. And I'll give you a hint, it's that guy. First he came for Yates, then Bahara, now Comey. Is it really real? We're hearing a lot of rumors that Bob Mueller could be on the chopping block by the president. If that even happened, can you imagine the fallout? We'll discuss that after this.